All right, so I last left off on 15E, which is the fill automatically with the drop-down handle. Oh, actually, let me show you something as well. There's also, if I have something like West, I could just hit Control D, highlight a bunch of things, Control D. It will automatically fill down. That's what Control D means, fill down. And if I have East, Control R, fill right. So you can quickly copy exactly the same number, which is different than the fill handle. The fill handle, it depends on the situation. If I have East and I grab the fill handle and I only have one thing, it's going to copy it down just like Control D. The fill handle works exactly like Control D. But if I have something like this, where there's a sequence of numbers, or there is a days of the week or months or something like that, it's going to behave differently. And it can even be, you know, you're doing a long list, 1, 2, 3, and I can, you know, drag this down to 5,000 way faster than typing them in. I can do a sequence of numbers, or, you know, A, B, C. Again, I can do the fill handle very quickly, and it will copy repeats of what I did. ABC, ABC, ABC. It handles letters differently than it handles numbers. Letters aren't going to give you the whole alphabet. Numbers will just keep counting. Letters is just going to repeat what you put. The drag down or fill handle will give you a repeat. So again, I love the fill handle, but I also realize it is annoying at times because it is not as consistent as you might think. So the last topic I want to talk about are dates and times. And so this spreadsheet gives you some samples that I'll walk you through. And this particular set is counting the days between two dates. So from June 5th to June 10th, how many days is that? 5 days. Using a simple equation, and here's my equation, equals B4 minus A4. I just did math on it. Does that work? In some cases, just subtract, it works. Somehow, my phone thinks I'm talking to it. So you can do this, but if you want to count the starting date, you have to add a 1, because from June 5th to June 10th, if I'm counting June 5th as one of the dates, I have to add 1, don't I? Because it's June 5th to the 6th, to the 7th, to the 8th, to the 9th, to the 10th. That's 5 days. But if I'm counting June 5th, I'm counting the starting date, I have to add 1. Again, one of the gotchas. So you can do math on dates because the date is actually just a number, or what they call a serial number in the language of Excel. And the serial number, if I go to font and I go to number, and instead of this being a date, I'm just going to call it a number with no decimal places. June 5th, 2020 is actually 43,987 days since January 1st, 1900. And I think I've mentioned that before in this class. The calendar in Excel starts January 1st, 1900. That's day 1. Serial number 1. And then every day after that has a serial number or a number designation, one number higher than that. And we've had 43,987 days since then on June 5th. All right. Even though you can do regular math, just add and subtract days. I don't generally like doing that. It's not the cleanest way, and there are many limitations. So you can use date functions as a much more powerful tool. And in this case, it's the date dif. And so I'm going from, I think it's D is for distance, if I remember right, the date distance. And so I'm going from A7 to B7. I'm going to return days. The quote D quote says how many days. That's all it means. But again, if I want to add a day or count the first day in the list, I need to add 1 again. But look what it just did. Excel tries to outthink me. It's like, wait a minute, when I added 1, Excel scratches his head and goes, what are you trying to do here? And it reformatted my date as a 1/6/1900. How many days from 1/1/1900 is that? Including the, day 1 being 1/1. January 6, 1900 is a serial number 6. So because it changed my formatting in cell C8, you might have to go back and change the formatting, font, number. I don't want a date. I want a number with 0 decimal places. Okay, put it back to a 6. Again, Excel does a good job of trying to second guess what you're doing, but sometimes it guesses wrong and it's annoying as hell. So that's one of the functions there. What about the date if function? How many days from January 1, 2015 through December 12, 2017? We're talking almost 3 years, right? And so it's asking how many days. The D tells it, please return number of days. And that's 1,076 days, or 365, almost times 3, a little less than 365 times 3. On months, all I have to do is replace the D with an M right there. And now how many months is that? 35. How many months is in 3 years? 36. Where'd the other month go? It only counts whole months, and December isn't a whole month, is it? What about years? Here's another one of those gotchas. January 1st, 2015 to December 12th, 2017. That's almost 3 years. So it returns 2. It only counts whole years. Doesn't round it off. It's just the whole years. How many complete years? But what about this one? January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2017. Isn't that 3 years? Sure as hell looks like 3 years to me. But again, the date dif function isn't counting that first day. So it's actually off by a day. So if I just change it by 1 day, look what I did here, January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2017. I just needed to move the January 1st back 1 day or the December 31st ahead 1 day. Either way would have done it. And I decided to move the January 1st, 2015 back 1 day to December 31st, 2014. Now I have 3 years. I could also, here's the original January 1st, 2015 to December 31st, 2017. This would give me 2 years unless I do a +1. And here's my +1. This is the equation I used. But what's going to happen when I do a +1? I bet you Excel's going to screw with me and reformat it back to a date. Sure enough, it did. Instead of a 3, it formatted it back. Instead of going the long way, I could just format painter, click a cell that's formatted right, Format Painter, and click back on, and it made it a 3 again. Format Painter is a really, really handy, quick tool rather than going the long way. Font, tab, numbers, format it as a number, make the decimals from 2 to 0, click OK. Format Painter can be a lot faster. So those are some counting days, counting months, counting years example. What if I only want weekdays? Well, there's something called the net workdays function. And so it ignores weekends. And you can actually define the weekend to be anything you want. You can call the weekend Tuesday, Wednesday as your weekend. You can do that. I'm not going to go into how to do that here, but you could look it up. How do you define or work with the network days? And so how many work days from October 4th to October 24th? That's actually about 3 weeks, including some weekends. And how many weekdays, work days, are in 3 weeks? 15. Even though the total days in the same range of October 4th to October 24th, the total days, not counting October 4th, is 20. Okay, remember, it doesn't count the first day. I wonder, October 5th. October 5th is actually a Monday. I'm curious. Let me try something here. If I change this to October 5th, oops, not this one. This one, if I change it to October 5th, which is a Monday, is that going to change it to 14 days because it doesn't count the first day? Or does net work days actually count the first day? It does. It's counting the total number of work days in the range. Remember, the date dif is a distance, how many days since. The net work days is looking at any range and counting how many work days are there in that range, including that first day. Again, a little bit of really important distinctions between how those functions work. Date dif does not count the first day. Net work days does. Here's the net work days for this week. For Thanksgiving week, 11/22/2020 versus 11/29/2020. How many work days are there? There are 3 work days. And why are there 3 work days? Because I've defined holidays. And this third argument is the holiday. So I have a range of dates from A27 to B27. And I've defined holidays. Now the holidays are right here. You have to specify. Excel doesn't know which holidays are which. It works anywhere in any country around the world. So you have to tell it what the holidays are. So you can have a list of holidays on a separate sheet or this sheet, doesn't matter. You can define what your holidays are for this worksheet for your employees, put them in a sheet and reference the holidays list when you're doing date functions. Boom. Any holidays, whether they're official nationally recognized holidays or just company days off, you can define them any way you want. And so in this one, I put Thursday and Friday, the 26th and 27th as holidays. So those are subtracted from the network days. So even though 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, there's a total of 9 days there. 8 days between those 2 dates. And yet only 3 of them are work days. The rest are weekends, right? Did I say 9? Wait, 22, 23, 24. There's 8. Ha! It's getting late. It's past my bedtime. It's way past my bedtime. Anyway, forgive me that. There are 8 days from 22 to 29, counting the 22. 7 in between the numbers. Something didn't add up in my head. Anyway, you can also do time from 8:10 a.m. to 6:20 p.m. is in hours and minutes, 10 hours and 10 minutes. Bingo. And this one's a little odd. It's like, what? You use the text function to create a formula to calculate time? Don't worry about it. I'm not going to get into some of the oddities of the words in Excel. There's another file called the date and time functions PDF file. And do I have that one here? Yes. And so the date and time functions, there's a whole bunch of them. The date function itself, date, dif, we've seen that one, date value, that returns what's called the serial number. So if I have something like, what was it called again? Not date value. Equals date value of B29. Oops. What did I do wrong? You have to specify it, or maybe I have to put it in quotes. Again, you have to play around with some of these things. So I can look at the date value of 11/29/2020. I wonder if I put it in quotes, if that's what it needed. If I can do B29 in quotes. Nope. It needs to specify the value. There might be other ways to work with it. I don't know. Again, there's lots of things, the days 360, E-date, EO month. Again, there's so many different ways to look at time and days and years, and you read through these different functions that can be used in a wide range of formulas in order to do calculations or mathematical operations, or just moving dates and days on a spreadsheet in ways that make sense for you. So let me show you an example of what made sense to me. And I have something like this spreadsheet. Now there's notes on the preparation of this particular document. I'm going to click on the edge of the document, or the notes on preparation. I'm going to delete that for now. I could just slide it off to the side, but anybody opening it up, that's something I got off the internet a while back with some very interesting business usage for this file. And I'm going to say zoom. And I'm going to fit the selection. So rather than messing with it, I just said fit to selection, and it took that whole thing and brought it all the way out. Now you notice up in the corner here, I have 1/1/2006. If you look at the formula bar, it's 1/1/2006, but when I hit enter, it's formatted to display way over here in the right-hand corner as January 06, Jan 06, all right? That is a manually input date with a manually formatted display of that date, January 06. But now I want to use this spreadsheet. I want to use it next year. I want to get started setting up my cash flow for 2021 for my business. So I type in 1/1/2021. And look at all these numbers. Before I hit enter, look at all these dates along the top here. Every single one of them is 2006. And now watch what happens when I hit enter. They all are 2021. So rather than going through and having to change every single reference, especially in a really complicated document where I might have, 5 different tabs, all with different pieces of the budget, and every single tab has all 12 of the dates, I could enter it once, and the entire spreadsheet on every worksheet in the entire workbook is all updated in one shot. How do you do that? All right, pretty easy. Let's go to D4. D4 has the simplest equation of all. The D4 is just equals P2. All I'm doing is saying equals to the same thing. Just whatever's in P2, copy it. That's it. All right? Can't get much simpler than that. The rest of them aren't so easy. Let's look at E4 with February. E4 with February has this uglier equation, the date function, and it's not going to let me show it to you in that cell full size, so I'm going to copy it down here. So now it hopefully is big enough where you can see it, but now I'm using the date function, and the date function is saying in the date, what date do you want to display in this cell? In the E4, I want to display the same year as the previous cell, D4. The year, I want to take the year from the previous cell, D4. I want to take the month from the previous cell, D4, January, plus 1. That makes it February. The month is D4 plus 1. The month is the cell 2. Well, I'm pointing the wrong way because I'm in a mirror image on this screen. So the one to the left of it, the January D4, the month I want to be the previous cell plus 1, January plus 1 or February. And what day do I want? Kind of doesn't matter. I'm going to put the number 1 for the first day of the month. So it's just year, month, and day. That's all it is. What is in the next cell? In March, it takes the year from E4. It takes the year from the one right behind it. I could take the year from D4. It doesn't really matter, but I think it's just easier. I take the year from the previous cell to the left, the month, E4 or February plus 1, and then the day, 1. And every single one of these is just pointing to the cell on its left and saying, give me the year from the cell on the left, give me the month from the cell on the left plus 1, and a number 1 for the first day of the month. And all the way across. That's all it is. Now, if I had multiple worksheets, I would have to say on this worksheet, if I wanted to use that first worksheet reference, view, zoom, 200 equals, and I got to point to that P2, is it? Enter. January 21. I just said equals and I pointed to it. And what does it do? It says equals, and then in single quotes, the name of the tab. Look way down here in the bottom. What is the name of the tab I was just showing you? 12-month cash flow. So equals, single quote, 12-month cash flow. That tells it which tab the cell is on. Which cell is it? P2. Let me blow that up so you can see. $12-month cash flow, exclamation point is a symbol that's required in Excel when you're pointing to another sheet. So you've got the name of the tab, exclamation point. That is pointing to a specific worksheet in this workbook. The book is all the tabs together. The sheet is just one tab. Cell P2. So anytime I use that, it just points to the next one. And now I can use the date function, equals date, and the year. Oh, shoot. How did it work again? Sorry. Okay. Let me do it this way. So the date, I want the year to be H9. The month, no, not H9, G9. The month, I want to be G9 plus 1, and the day, just number 1. First day, doesn't matter. I could say day, I could specify, but I don't need to. And now I want to format it, format painter. So it technically behind the scenes is 2/21/21 or 2/1/21, and now I've just formatted it the way I want it to look. Done. There's the date function, or at least one of the many date functions in a really useful way for a budget, the company's budget, and the monthly expenses and budget for 12 months of expenses in the company. And if you have other categories, you can point to functions or cells on different worksheets. And that's it. That's it for today.